Hello, and well, the mask is back. And as you can see, lots of fights have been canceled on this card, so it's a good thing that I made sure to do this video after the weigh-ins of this fight card because it was due to the weight cut, at least for one of them. One of them says it's a medical issue with Douglas Silva de Andrade, but quick predictions for those that didn't actually become official. I think that Luana would have won against Montana De La Rosa because, you know, Montana had a close decision against Andrea Lee. Luana, she's shown a better finishing instinct against the girl that armbarred Molly McCann, finding the finish in the third round, I think, uh, due to ground and pound in like the last minute of the fight. I think it was Julia Stoliarenko. And then John Castaneda, it would beat Douglas de Silva de Andrade, especially since he had a medical issue. But even despite that, I think that he's much younger, and even though they have a kind of similar style, they've both been kind of feeling like NPCs lately, and I would trust the younger guy to sort of mix things up a little better. So yeah, let's get into it. We have Charles Johnson versus Ramazan Tamirov. Now, Ramazan Tamirov, I think that, obviously against Charles Johnson, he's going to have a stylistic disadvantage, seeing as Charles Johnson likes to poke at these shorter guys and then eventually set up the uppercut. And he'll land some pitter pat shots around the guard, but nothing too significant that would really rock or daze guys most of the time. Most of his fights have gone to decision, as you know, and it almost did against Joshua Van. It's just that he found the opening and he realized that he had to go for it because it could have been 2-0 for Joshua Van up until that point. So it was good that he had the motivation late in that fight to find it, and it seems like that's how he is in most of his fights. Even though I thought that he lost against Sumo Darji, he really picked up the pace in the subsequent rounds, following round one, which didn't look very good for him. I again thought that Sumo Darji beat him, but it was a very close fight. So I'm a bit not a fan that it was a unanimous decision. Watching back, I thought it was certainly much closer than a unanimous decision, but that's besides the point, I guess, because Ramazan Tamirov's a completely different style. But the thing is, Charles Johnson, against his first win in this win streak, I forget who was Amazad Maxim. Against that guy, I think he dropped Charles Johnson twice. I remember that quite well, and it could have arguably been a 10-8, but that's also besides the point. If it was a draw or not, he probably would have also gone on a decent win streak after that because he is actually decent. And he could certainly win this, and I'm not surprised that he is the slight favorite. That makes sense because Ramazan Tamirov, even though he has the crazy power and he's certainly, you know, dangerous, he doesn't have the same technique. And he doesn't have the range and he doesn't have the height, so he could just be stuck at range. But, Ramazan is a built guy, especially for 5'4". I could totally see Ramazan Tamirov just planting one of those big overhands on Charles Johnson when he's little more labored in the early goings of the fight because as we know in the first round he's really not that special. It really takes him a little while to get going. He's like a Marlon Vera. Marlon Chito Vera, he's gonna need a little warming up. And I know that Marlon Vera isn't the same as he used to, but it's like a Marlon Vera on the come up, I guess, with maybe a little bit less finishing instinct, So I'm gonna say a round one KO. I'm gonna say I know that's kind of rare in flyweight, two KOs back to back first round as well. But Ramazan Tamirov, I'm gonna say he's probably gonna have a really good shot at being a contender in the future, as I think I don't know too much about him so far, but from what I've seen, I think he's gonna have like top three pound for pound flyweight power. That's what I'm gonna say. Maybe top five. But he's looking like he's already got some crazy power to knock out CJ Vergara in the first round easy. So yeah, man, I'm gonna have to pick him late in the first round. And then JJ Aldrich and Andrea Lee. I mean, it's all red. L L L L L. I mean, look, Andrea Lee, I was impressed when I saw that she had like a split decision against Macy Barber, and she did have some decent competition that she fought against. But that's the reasoning I used, I believe, against Miranda Maverick. Picking Andrea Lee against Miranda Maverick, I used back in the day when maybe this wasn't during the channel, but I was still predicting fights, and I remember I was picking Andrea Lee because oh she is losing, but she has decent competition. So and she's also longer a little bit and taller, so she's probably going to be able to just outpoint Miranda Maverick. And then no, she loses a unanimous but somewhat close decision. And I think it's going to be kind of like that here. I just think that she is not able to hurt her opponent. And if you're not able to hurt your opponent in a fight, how can I pick you? I'm sorry, I just can't. Especially in women's MMA. Yeah, I'm gonna have to say a close decision for JJ Aldrich. So yeah, not really going against the grain, but that's my pick. And we have Lucas Almeida and Danny Silva. This is interesting because I actually really don't really don't get Almeida being only 15% of the Tapology picks. I mean, what's up with that? He's actually decent, but the issue is, and he also missed weight, so, Danny Silva, if he's trying to go for takedowns, if he feels like he's not faring too well on the feet, that's going to be a problem if he's really trying to push for those takedowns. But Lucas Almeida is decent. He's like a decent pit for pat strikes kind of guy. He has actually kind of a decent jiu-jitsu game. He has a good kickboxing, I would say. But the issue is, he let a guy like Frick, oh, Andre Feely, that's right. I didn't want to check. I know you could just tap on the W's and L's to check here, but I just wanted to see if I could recall. Yeah, it's Andre Feely. He let him impose his will on him, and I understand. I'm pretty certain that was short notice, but Andre Feely is the guy these days that people impose their will on. I mean, you look at Ezequiel Costa, I think that the dude's name is in the last week's event. Um, yeah, that dude was pushing those body kicks. He was doing lots of good stuff there. And then he when Andre Fili went for the takedown when he wasn't liking how it went on the feet, he just tapped. So Lucas Almeida, even though he has a decent jiu-jitsu game actually, I don't like that he wasn't trying new things. He wasn't like trying to go for the jiu-jitsu moments very much. And I understand that he didn't have a lot of time in that fight because I'm pretty certain he got KO'd by a hook. Maybe it was a straight punch, but let me just double check here. Yeah, right hook. So Andre Fili doesn't really get KOs. When's he getting KOs? So I know Silva actually usually gets decisions, but I'm gonna actually predict this KO this time because usually, even though he gets decisions, his decisions are won by the more impactful strikes in the fight. You look at the Joshua Kulabau fight, even though it was a split decision, and I arguably thought Joshua Kulabau could have won that um, in in his last fight. It's it's basically the um, classic of, oh, well, he hit him like double the amount of strikes, but the other guy just happened to land, for the most part, more significant. And that's kind of how it was. That was the story of the fight. Joshua Colabao was certainly the more technical guy for the most part, but then when he slowed down, that was Danny Silva's chance in the, I believe, second and third rounds that he really imposed as well. So Danny Silva, he's certainly gonna. I know like it's not like a again not a really like crazy take, but I just think he's gonna be more lethal and the crazier not the crazier thing, but the more unexpected thing because most people are picking decision here. I'm actually gonna go with like a second round KO. I'm gonna say they have a little time to warm up and then early in the second round he just finds them. I think he clips him early, maybe like in the first 10 seconds of the second round. I think. Um, Ricardo Ramos and Shepe Mariscal. Although, one thing I must say, Lucas Almeida could maybe implement a grappling game. He could certainly do that, but especially with the weight miss. But I mean, I just don't like how he performed against Andre Fili. I really don't. Um, Shepe Mariscal versus Ricardo Ramos. Shepe has really good boxing and kickboxing. I mean, the hooks that he lands in the clinch exchanges, even the kicking game, like really diverse striking assets, and especially against Damon Jackson, like very good boxing and kickboxing, as well as the opposition that he's been facing has really proved that. If he was doing that kind of stuff against like lower level opposition, I'd be like, I don't know if I should trust him. But he won against Morgan Charpier. I hope I'm not saying that wrong, but Damon Jackson as well. Couple other guys I know that he beat that were also pretty decent. Ricardo Ramos, he's got the spinning elbow. He's got a few decent straight shots. He's got some decent thud, but not a lot of finishes, not too many. And yeah, I think that Shepe Mariscal, he's just gonna outpoint him really. Um, Ricardo Lammos, I was surprised that he's actually not that much taller because Shepe Mariscal has been looking pretty short in comparison to pretty much all of the other featherweights. But I mean, yeah, I think that he's look, man, I just think he's better, okay? He's got good straight shots, he's got good looping shots, he's got good leg kicks, he's got good high kicks. That's what I think he has. Ricardo Ramos, he's going to need to resort to his Hail Mary KO shots, or maybe he's going to need to go for some grappling exchanges. That's the only way I see him winning right now. I'm going to go with a decision. And this one's interesting. I think Austin Lane is being heavily underrated here. Heavily, heavily underrated. And I'm actually like kind of close to picking him here, but I'm not going to because he's such a big underdog. But the issue is, right, he's chinny. And yes, he was able to take down another athletic specimen in what's the dude's name? Rubelas Despain. Yeah, but that dude, let's be honest, he didn't really have any takedown defense in his entire UFC career, which wasn't really a career. His UFC career was more like a UFC testing of the waters. It was it was nothing really. It was basically, oh, can he grapple? He couldn't. Oh well. If he could have grappled, he could have knocked out everyone, but he couldn't grapple. It's the same situation with Mario Pinto because Austin Lane has underrated takedowns. That's part of why he won against Rubelas Despain. In fact, that's a big reason as well. So I'm gonna have to say this is actually closer than what people think. Of course, I'm gonna have to go with a first round KO. If I think Mario Pinto is gonna win, I'm gonna have to pick a first round KO. But if he doesn't get the first round KO, Austin Lane's winning. I don't really think you can convince me. Otherwise, I mean, sure he gassed against frick, what's his name, Jonata Denise, but I mean, I feel like against a taller guy like Mario Pinto, I feel like the back's more open, and I feel like these taller guys also don't really think about takedown defense as well. Um, Although I could see Austin Lane gassing in the third, maybe not the second like in the Jonata Denise fight because I think he's going to improve on that, but especially since he's the veteran now. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Mario Pinto, but I think Austin Lane has a good shot. I do. Very underrated here. Sam Patterson versus Danny Barlow. Now, I don't want to have to pick a ton of freaking like favorites all over the card, okay? But man, Sam Patterson, I mean, just look at his profile picture. Like he has a freaking long chin. I mean, neck. Like it's just a very hittable target there. The head. It's like very obvious. And he doesn't really have a good guard. He's dangerous, absolutely, and I could totally see Danny Barlow hurting him bad, and then he just gets caught in a triangle or something. I could totally see that, but especially since Danny Barlow has some decently long limbs as well, but and his last performance against what's the guy that fought last weekend, from Kazakhstan? Yeah, Nikolai Varentenikov. Um, I didn't like his performance there. Now, he did say, I think, that he broke his hand there, and that wasn't good thing to see as well since like that early in your career when you're a younger prospect. He's not that young, but you're a younger guy, you shouldn't be like you shouldn't have your hand break that easily. But this is this is a close fight. Like Sam Patterson is good when he's aggressive, but defensively he's not all there. And Danny Barlow has really accurate shots. So I'm gonna have to say but dude, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could pick a double round one KO after Mario Pinto back to back double first round KO because it just I when I think of like first round KO, I don't want to do back to back because I feel like that usually doesn't happen back to back first round KOs. I just don't think that usually happens. This is way more competitive than people think. I truly believe. I mean, Josh Quinlan's not very good. Like, yeah, he's precise, but he's precise on who? Like, who are these guys? No, 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 no. I'm gonna have to go with Sam Peterson. I'm gonna have to say he gets rocked very badly and he finds a freaking submission Hail Mary. I gotta go with some more underdogs. Last card I wasn't going with the underdogs. I wanted to pick Ricky Simone and I wanted to pick Ion Cutelaba, but those were so 50-50 to me, and I just decided, oh, I'm gonna go with the favorites because I want to play it safe this card. No, no, let's not play it safe. But I mean, William Gomis, I'm gonna have to play it safe here because I genuinely don't think Hyder Emil like this is a real Hail Mary. The submission from Sam Peterson, he actually has a chance on the feet as well, so it's not really a Hail Mary, but Hyder Emil, he basically really is just swinging shots and hoping. That's really what he's doing. At least in his most recent fights. Like, sure, he's shown ability to be more technical in the past, but he's mostly just been winging shots and seeing if you can last. And that's dangerous for a guy like William Gomes, who's gonna try and play the technical game, play the pitter pat game um, when there's a bull coming at you, especially in a smaller octagon, which the UFC Apex does have, I'm pretty certain. But he's just dealt with Joe Anderson Brito, who that's kind of his game on the feet. He's a really heavy pressure guy. And throughout that whole fight, I was like, oh my gosh, this dude's constantly just jittering at William Gomis. Joe Anderson Brito was just constantly jittering, feinting, trying to get his reads, trying to freaking pressure as much as possible. He really wanted to freaking impress so that he could get into the rankings, which this fight against William Gomis, if he had won it, he certainly would have been in the rankings. Joe Anderson Brito, but man, William Gomis dealt with that pressure pretty well, and he has a good clinch game as well. So if Hyder Emil overextends on one of these big hooks, I think that, and if they get in the clinch, I think that William Gomis will have the high advantage there. He has a very good control in the clinch. So, I'm going to say a decision. Maybe he'll show some finishing instinct, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be a 30-27, maybe a 29-28 by one of the judges. Or, I don't know, it could be closer. It could be a unanimous 29-28, but I think it's 30-27. I just think Hyder Emil's not on his level. I just don't. And then Nasrat Haqparast, Esteban Ribovic. Uh, Look, man, I think that I was surprised that Esteban is the much taller guy. I don't know how Nasrat Haqparast on the numbers is apparently 5'10 here. He is not 5'10, dude. Now, the reach is also kind of crazy from Esteban that he's the taller guy by quite a bit. You should check the weigh-ins if you're watching. Like, the dude is 5'8", Nasrat Haqparast. Maybe even 5'7". It's crazy. Esteban is a pretty tall guy in comparison. He is a pretty sizable lightweight, I would say. And, Esteban Ribovic, his game is landing decent boxing exchanges and then getting out the pocket. Getting in, getting out safely. He's so safe with it for the most part. Sometimes he'll get caught if you see his patterns, like Daniel Zellhuber in the third round. He did land a clean elbow, which dropped him. Although then, Esteban just freaking gritted down and he found the shots that worked. And then when he saw the opening, he just landed like a crazy flurry in the third. So, that was a great fight. That's going to do for his confidence quite well. It's going to be quite a stark contrast, I would say, in comparison to most people saying robbery, robbery against Jared Gordon. Whereas on the other hand, it's like even though yes, it was a split decision, it's like you could see why they gave it to Esteban Ribovic. Um, and it's also the aura of it being UFC 306. Like, oh my gosh, I won on this big stage. He's all smiles as well lately, you know. I just feel like his confidence is going to be there, while Nasrat, he is pretty stuck in the mud. He's got the same combos, he's got the same sort of, you know, Weasel said this, and even though you know lately I've not been too spot, I think he's not been too spot on. I've not been too big a fan, but I do agree he not just in how he looks, but also in how he fights. Nasrat Haqparast, he's similar. He has this like exploding into the pocket sometimes, and then coming in to find his hooks. You know, he's kind of like Esteban Ribovic in that sense, but not as technical, not as like defensively aware because Esteban, I was so impressed with how he was with dealing with the taller, longer, arguably more technical kickboxer Daniel Zellhuber, with his hooks and straight punches, just getting in and out with the cross as well, even at moments. Yeah, I mean, I gotta go with Esteban Ribovic. I think that Nasrat Haqparast has a decent enough chin, so I'm gonna say decision. But trust me, I could so badly see Nasrat getting KO'd here because Jared Gordon was landing decent boxing exchanges in the pocket, and Esteban, that's his key. It's like that's what he does. He comes in and then he comes out. He comes in landing hard, pretty hard, and then he comes out unscathed almost most of the time, almost all the time. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with decision Esteban Ribovic. Um, yeah, it's gonna be a fun one though, I think. It's gonna be like a 29-28, 29-28, 30-27 maybe. That's what I see. Maybe it could be more clear. Maybe it could be another 30-27 unanimous, but I don't know. And then we have Julian Marquez versus Cody Bondage, I almost said, which, you know, he kind of is a little bit deserving of that, let's be honest. He's not really done too much crazy. I'm gonna have to say, wow, I'm actually really, really, really surprised just how many people are picking Cody Brundage. And, you know, I don't really think that Julian Marquez is dangerous, especially lately. But he has shown some decent grappling, and Cody Brundage, I mean, way back, you know, unfortunately, because you know most of his recent fights have been KOs. In fact, all his recent fights. But so we haven't really seen his grappling. But Cody Brundage, you know, he has shown the against Zach Reese, he has shown the ability to hunt for the finish like a slam, you know? I mean, if Julian Marquez is going for some kind of a jiu-jitsu exchanges, which he does have certain moments where he tries some things like that in his past fights. I'm not talking about his losses, I'm talking about his wins. He does try and go for certain things like that. And, you know, if he kind of ends up in a similar spot to Zach Reese, I could totally see Cody Brundage just trying to use his muscle to just trying to try like outmuscle Julian Marquez and just land like maybe not a slam, but land some decent ground and pound shots when he like just muscles out of a submission, and then being on top, he just you know lets it loose. I think having all these more relatively high profile fights, like especially the Bo Nickel one, but then the Abdul Razak Al Hassan fight, other ones, the Zach Reese one was pretty impressive. You know, I think that it's going to help in his confidence, and I totally can see Julian Marquez win this 1000%. But you know, it's just a. I think it's not momentum, but you know, Cody's going to be a little more confident not having been KO'd in like the first 19 seconds of his last fight. I think Zach Reese KO'd Julian Marquez in his last fight in 19 seconds, so that's not a great thing for your confidence here. Cody Brundage, you know, he had a yes, he wasn't doing well against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, but those were like illegal strikes, and so it was like a no contest. So he's gonna be like kind of neutral in this one. So I'm gonna have to say maybe like a late. I'm gonna say Julian Marquez, his chin is holding up until like Cody Brundage just finds the right moments, and he lets loose on some ground and pound shots. Kind of like maybe Chris Weidman versus Eric Anders, I would say. Maybe a little bit like that. And Asu Almabayev versus Manel Kape. I'm surprised how many comments are on social medias, especially YouTube, are saying like, "Oh no, bro, Manel Kape, this hype train's about to be derailed." Like, what makes you think that Asu Almabayev is going to be the one to do that? He lands like 50 strikes per fight. Actually, if you're lucky, he'll land 50 strikes per fight. He's more like 10 strikes per round. It's crazy. He does have good body kicks, I'll be honest. That's a great tool he could use in this fight. And his top pressure is really strong. He has a good like instinct to catch kicks, catch punches, good timing on his shots. Especially against these taller guys like what's a good example? Like the 6 foot guy. Let me actually just check on that. Not CJ Vergara. Yeah, Jose Johnson. That guy, he had very good shots on him, and his timing was on point. But against Manolo Capa, it's like he looked fast for a flyweight in his last fight, and that's crazy. Like he showed a new wrinkle in his game, and that was his speed. He always had that speed, but it's like it was mostly just sudden bursts out of nowhere. In his last fight, it was like he was constantly fast the entire time. It was like he was not only fast in like he lands quick explosions, but it was also like he landed a lot of quick explosions. It wasn't like a couple of quick explosions every round. No, it was like 5 to 10 different quick explosions every round, closer to 10 even. So he was like a lot more active in that fight, and that was really good to see. Now he did finish it with a nut shot. That was in the finishing sequence against Bruno Silva, I think it is. But that actually kind of makes me favor Manel Kape a little more in this fight because that shows me that the ref might be willing to actually look past that. Now it is the Apex, so they might, with the crowd not being as loud, they might notice things more. But I think Asu Almabayev is going to win a few rounds off of like landing a few decent body kicks when Manel Kape's a little more tired, doing these nice explosions into the pocket, landing decent combinations and not really getting hit too clean, landing really good shots around the guard, good knees, lots of good knees. Manel Kape is going to land as well. This is something I see him do a lot, even to the body if he doesn't jump for it. Usually he could get caught for those emotes as well. I've seen, he has, Bruno Silva wasn't able to do it, but he was emoting a little too much in that fight, and he almost got caught for it at one point. And Asu Almabayev, he's not really the most strong guy. He hasn't had a KO in a while, but he could certainly run in for that double leg or that single leg, and find it. He can certainly like you don't want to be doing taunting against a guy who can hold you down, like a Muhammad Makayev, for example. I'm not saying he did it. He did much taunting in that fight, but you get my point. It's like Muhammad Makayev shown that you can hold down Manel Kape, and Asu Almabayev does have really good top pressure, and he does know where to be positionally a lot of the time. So I'm gonna say that Manel Kape, it's certainly not gonna be a very very dominant fight, but I'm gonna say Manel Kape wins this quite comfortably. I'm gonna say it's not gonna be dominant. It's not gonna be like even like even close to dominant, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be a clear win for Manel Kape. I'm gonna say a 48-47. I'm gonna say he wins rounds 1, 2, and 4. I'm gonna say that he takes a little break in the third round, and then also Almabayev capitalizes, gets a few body kicks, even gets a few straight shots in, little jabs. He has okay jabs every now and again, and then he gets the takedown when Manel Kape isn't landing enough, and then he sort of lands a few pitter pat shots, just like outmuscles Manel Kape a little bit in that round. Manel Kape is a little rejuvenated in the fourth round after he gets up from the takedown, and then in round five, Asu Almabayev takes advantage of Manel Kape not having the best of cardio, which I believe he doesn't have too much a good cardio. I think that he, being like a Yoel Romero in that he's an explosive guy, and that he likes to go for these fast flurries. I think that in his first 5 rounder fight, it's going to show that that's not really going to be a 5 round efficient style. So I'm going to say in the fifth round he really shows a little fatigue, but the first, second, and fourth were very clear for him, so you can't deny the win for him. And yeah, those are my picks for the UFC Fight Night Cap versus Alamabayev. Uh, yeah, fight card. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Masked MMA out.